So to really understand how we can work with fungi, we need to understand the history and timeline of fungi. So almost estimated a billion years ago, fungi appeared. Maybe longer, maybe shorter. Maybe they appeared in outer space somewhere or on another galaxy or dimension, and they traveled here. Who knows? 7 million years ago, humans appeared. Around 7 million years. And it was unknown as to who was the first Homo sapien to consume fungi for a healing, whatever that means, purpose. And even going beyond the anthropogenic or anthropocentric view, it's like, okay, who was the first insect? I don't know. And I would love for historians to dive more into this. And as we dive deeper in, I feel like we're going to find more and more different information. But one theory is the stoned ape theory. And I'm sure a lot of people have heard this. There's amazing art by Alex Dorr, an amazing visionary painter. And I think this painting really does justice for this event that Terence McKenna theorized, which is the Stone Age theory, that our early ancestors found mushrooms that contained psilocybin, and that boosted our evolution. So this was the first time that we used mushrooms in a healing setting, so to speak, or theorized. In 17,000 BC, we see the Red Lady of El Miron. And if I butcher any pronunciation, please forgive me. So we can see this picture of her teeth. And it was found 2 types of spores, one from a Boletus and one from another guild mushroom. So you can see, who knows the real identification of these mushrooms, and if it was pure gourmet, just feeding, or it was something more, using it as medicinally, healing, ritualistic, who knows. Again, we're seeing this Telluride cave drawing, which I love, was 4,713 BC. Around that time, you see this cave painting, which again shows this relationship between humans and fungi. It's theorized this is psilocybin, but who knows? In 3300 BC, we see Utsi the Iceman, and he was found in the Swiss Alps, and he was the oldest naturally preserved human, and he was found with 2 types of mushrooms on him, birch polypore and tinderconch. And he was using birch polypore, theorized to clear intestinal parasites, and the bottom used Fomes fomentarius as a moxibustion. And he was found with archaic tattoos of meridian points on his body, and they found kind of an old form of arthritis that he was suffering from. And it was theorized that he was using this tinderconch to burn under those specific meridian points on his body to kind of self-cure his arthritis. Now, I'm going to go through this timeline, just a little pre-warning, that there are a lot of cultures that we can't see specific dates. And so Native Americans, we have a lot of historical records, but the dates are not as accurate. And a lot of these as well, the dates are not accurate. And we see a lot of usage from all around the world, but it's really unclear of when that was. So some of these timelines they could be off, and there may be cultures who have used mushrooms before the timeline that I'm presenting. So I just wanted to make that clear in case someone says, "Oh, you're forgetting X, Y, Z." But in 5th century BC, we see Hippocrates, who is the father of modern Western medicine, talk about not only Fomitopsis officinalis, the agaricon mushroom, and he described this as a lot of members around him as a cure-all. But also, again, he was talking about matsudashi. In 20 AD, and this is kind of the quick and dirty timeline, so I'm probably skipping over a lot of events, but 20 AD, we see Beauveria bassiana, which is an entomopathogenic fungi, used as medicine in Shannon's Materia Medica in China. In 200 AD, Shen Nong Ben Kao mentions reishi, poria, tremella, polyporus embellitus, and in 5th and 7th century AD, it was described, so Cordyceps cicadae, which is an amazing mushroom, which I'll talk about at the end of the presentation and more in the entomopathogenic fungi presentation, but it was described multiple times in many different texts through that 200-year period as an amazing source of medicine. But in 8th century, we see Ophiocordyceps senescens, that Himalayan caterpillar fungus listed in Tibetan Materia Medica. Around the same time, Chinese cultivate a red yeast for medicine, which is later turned into the statin drug, mavastatin. In 1918, we're jumping ahead a little bit, ergotamine, vasoconstricting alkaloid for headaches, is isolated. In 1928, this is pretty famous, we get penicillin, and this was revolutionary. In 1938, we have another revolutionary date where LSD was isolated and discovered for its potential for so many things that we're studying now, such a revolutionary compound, also derived from fungi. And in 1948, we see cephalosporum. It's an antibiotic, and it was that was isolated in 1948. In 1960, we see a steroid fusidic acid in 1971. So these are a lot of drug isolation. So this, I'm focusing more on the pure medical application, approved drugs, and then we'll kind of relate that to functional mushrooms. So in 1971, cyclosporin A was isolated from Tolypocladium inflatum, and in 1983, it was used for medicine, and this is really important for organ transplants. The ability to suppress your immune system enough to have an organ transplant, which is huge. In 1978, we see lovastatin again from Aspergillus aureus. If I'm butchering any name, please forgive me. In 1980s, going back to kind of functional mushrooms, we have Japanese government approval of the use of PSK, that's polysaccharide crestin, the main medicinal or the most studied medicinal compound in turkey tail, for treating several types of cancers. In 1993, Taxol, amazing drug. So fungi were discovered that actually produced Taxol, and this was revolutionary to grow these fungi in a bioreactor and really mass produce Taxol. So this was revolutionary for the time. Now, here's a list of a series of single compounds isolated from fungi that are used in the pharmaceutical industry. Now, the list, I mean, it's missing PSK, for example. That's just one. This is a very short list, but even in this list, we're seeing $30 billion of sales in 2017, which obviously has increased now that we're in 2020. The mushroom market, so we're talking about gourmet mushrooms, we're talking about functional mushrooms, that's a $50 billion market. So you can see drug discovery and single compound isolation is huge. And, you know, some people are against it, but it has been revolutionary. I mean, you look at penicillin, I mean, it saved an ungodly amount of people's lives. We also see psilocybin on this list, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, and that's going to blow up in here shortly.